Teddy Roosevelt's daily routine was incredibly intense and productive. He approached each day with the determination to conquer it, viewing his calendar as a challenge to be met. He once said, "Far and away, the best prize that life offers is the chance to work hard at work worth doing." And he lived by this credo, achieving more in a single day than most do in a week. In 1900, after being nominated for vice president and while campaigning for William McKinley, Roosevelt's schedule was packed. During his famous whistle-stop tour, he delivered high-energy speeches from the back of his train, making 480 stops in 23 states. His day started at 7 a.m. with breakfast, followed by a speech at 7:30 a.m. at 8 a.m. He read a historical work before giving another speech at 9 a.m. at 10 a.m. He dictated letters, and at 11 a.m., he discussed Montana mines. Another speech was delivered at 11:30 a.m. before he read an ornithological work at noon. By 12:30 p.m., he was giving yet another speech, followed by lunch at 1 p.m. at 1:30 p.m. Roosevelt gave a speech, then read works by Sir Walter Scott at 2:30 p.m. He answered telegrams at 3 p.m., followed by a speech at 3:45 p.m. at 4 p.m. He met with the press and spent time reading at 4:30 p.m. A speech was given at 5 p.m., followed by more reading at 6 p.m. Supper was at 7 p.m. And from 8 o'clock to 10 p.m., he was engaged in speaking engagements. At 11 p.m., he read alone in his train car before going to bed at midnight. Albert Einstein's daily routine was quite interesting and included a lot of sleep. He typically woke up around 9 a.m. after a solid 10 hours of sleep. For breakfast, he enjoyed 2 fried eggs with mushrooms and toast, along with either coffee or tea, depending on his mood. He would read the newspaper during breakfast to keep up with current events. Einstein had a peculiar habit of never wearing socks, as he found them a distraction after discovering that his big toe would always end up making a hole in them. Instead, he preferred sandals, and if those were unavailable, he would even wear his wife's slingbacks. While working at Princeton, Einstein would leave his house at 10:30 a.m. and walk to his office, unless the weather was bad, in which case he would get a ride. He worked until 1 p.m., then walked back home for lunch at 1:30 p.m. After lunch, he took a nap, followed by a cup of tea. The rest of Einstein's afternoon was spent working, seeing visitors, and handling correspondence with the help of his secretary, until 6:30 p.m. He then had dinner, did some more work, wrote letters, and got ready for bed to ensure he got his full 10 hours of sleep, ready to repeat the routine the next day. Sigmund Freud's daily routine was highly organized. He began each day at 7 a.m., with his wife Martha meticulously laying out his clothes, selecting his handkerchiefs, and even putting toothpaste on his toothbrush. Interestingly, Freud owned only 3 suits, 3 pairs of shoes, and 3 sets of underclothes. The number 3 also appeared in his work, as he believed in the 3 parts of the mind and subconsciousness. After breakfast, Freud's barber would visit daily to trim his beard. From 8 a.m. until noon, he saw patients in a small office connected to his apartment in Vienna. At precisely 1 p.m., he had dinner, the term used for the midday meal at the time. Meals were always served exactly on the hour, and Freud, who disliked wine and chicken, preferred boiled or roasted beef. He often ate quietly, lost in thought. After eating, Freud would take a brisk walk around Vienna's Ringstrasse, more for exercise than leisure. During these walks, he might buy cigars or visit his publishers to collect or deliver work. Freud was a passionate cigar smoker, indulging in up to 20 a day. At 3 p.m., he conducted consultations and continued seeing patients until 9 p.m. Afterward, the family had supper together. Following supper, Freud might play card games with his sister-in-law or go for a walk with his wife or one of their children. During these walks, he sometimes stopped at a cafe to read the newspaper. His evenings were spent in his study, where he read, wrote, or edited journal articles. Freud would often work late into the night, going to bed around 1 a.m., or even later if he was deeply engrossed in his work. This is Nikola Tesla's incredibly productive daily routine. In an interview, Tesla mentioned that he believed people should eat breakfast 2 hours before starting work. Given that he began work around 9 a.m., it is likely that he had breakfast at 7 a.m. He was very meticulous about his grooming and was known as an elegant and stylish person in New York City. Tesla understood the importance of maintaining his appearance to further his business relationships, regularly wearing a black derby, silk shirt, cane, green suede high tops, gray suede gloves, and absolutely no jewelry. Exercise was extremely important to him, and he claimed to walk at least 10 miles a day, beginning with a walk from the hotel where he lived to his laboratory. This walk took about 30 minutes, and he arrived at the laboratory around 9 a.m. He spent his mornings prepping and planning for the day ahead. Tesla never ate lunch, Instead, he took a warm bath followed by a cold shower to stimulate his brain cells. He believed people should only eat 2 meals a day. The afternoon was dedicated to experimenting and working on projects, and he continued working until 6 p.m. or later, depending on the day. For dinner, he would telephone his order to the fashionable Delmonico's restaurant, where only the head waiter was allowed to serve him. Tesla had his dinner precisely at 8:10 p.m. He usually ate dinner alone, using this time as a period of rest, although he occasionally dined with reporters or investors. Over the years, he shifted away from eating meat and became a vegetarian in his later life. After dinner, Tesla often returned to work, sometimes working until 3 a.m. in an interview. He claimed that he never slept for more than 2 hours a night, although he admitted to dozing occasionally to recharge. On one occasion, he worked for 84 hours straight without rest. 3 times a week, he would see his barber for a half-hour scalp massage, and every night he curled his toes 100 times on each foot, believing it stimulated his brain cells. Tesla placed great value on diet and exercise, maintaining a highly regimented routine to preserve his health. This is Benjamin Franklin's intentional and productive daily routine. Thanks to his autobiography, we have detailed information about his schedule from the Renaissance man himself. Franklin started his day at 5 a.m., adhering to his belief that early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. After washing up, he practiced positivity and gratitude by addressing a higher power, as he was a deist who believed in a higher being based on rational thought. He also began his day with the question, "What good shall I do today?" Following this, he had breakfast, planned his day, and engaged in what he called prosecuting the present study, which involved studying something unrelated to his other work, such as learning a new language. This all took place between 5 and 8 a.m. Franklin enjoyed cranberries, honey, and apples for breakfast, as he believed in the adage, "An apple a day keeps the doctor away." From 8 a.m. until noon, Franklin worked, and given his many talents and high demand, this work varied throughout his career. Between noon and 2 p.m., he would read or review his accounts and dine. The midday meal was the primary meal of the day. Although he was a vegetarian in his younger years, Franklin later returned to eating meat. He enjoyed foods like potatoes, ginseng, maple syrup, corn, Parmesan cheese, and turkey. He also helped introduce tofu, rhubarb, and Scottish kale to colonial America. At 2 p.m., he returned to work and continued until 6 p.m. from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. Franklin liked to put things in their place, eat supper, and enjoy music and conversation. He invented a musical instrument called the glass harmonica and played many other instruments. Before bed, he would reflect on his day, asking himself, "What good have I done today?" He went to bed at 10 p.m. to get a full 7 hours of sleep. Franklin rated himself daily on 13 virtues: temperance, silence, order, resolution, frugality, industry, sincerity, justice, moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, chastity, and humility. Each week, he focused on a different virtue and documented his progress in a chart. He once wrote, "I was surprised to find myself so much fuller of faults than I had imagined, but I had the satisfaction of seeing them diminish." A fellow founding father noted that Franklin liked to sleep with the windows open, believing in the benefits of fresh air at night, which went against the popular belief at the time that night air was harmful. Franklin also admitted that he didn't always follow his own advice, sometimes staying up late and waking up late. Despite his shortcomings, he accomplished an incredible amount during his life. Warren Buffett's daily routine is both surprising and consistent. Every day, Buffett wakes up at 6:45 a.m., as he has no desire to start work at 4 a.m. He begins his morning by reading several newspapers, including the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and Forbes. After his reading, Buffett heads to McDonald's for breakfast. His order depends on how the stock market is performing that day. His wife places either $2.61, $2.95, or $3.17 in his car's cup holder each morning. With $2.61, he buys 2 sausage patties. For $2.95, he gets a sausage McMuffin with egg and cheese, and for $3.17, he opts for a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. If he's feeling prosperous, he'll choose the bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. Otherwise, he goes for a cheaper option. Buffett prefers to pay for things in cash, finding it easier. With his breakfast, Buffett drinks a can of Coca-Cola and consumes about 5 cans of Coke throughout the day, aligning with his investment in Coca-Cola stock. Sometimes he might also have a strawberry milkshake. To defend his diet, he humorously claims that since actuarial tables show the lowest mortality rates among 6-year-olds, he decided to eat like a 6-year-old, believing it's the safest course of action. Despite his diet, he exercises to maintain his health. Buffett arrives at work when the stock market opens at 9:30 a.m. and spends about 80% of his day reading. He recommends reading at least 500 pages a day, asserting that the knowledge gained builds up like compound interest. This extensive reading helps him avoid making impulsive business decisions. To put his reading habit into perspective, it's almost equivalent to reading Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone twice in one day. Throughout the day, he stays updated on the news by reading the Financial Times, the New York Times, the Omaha World Herald, and American Banker. For lunch, Buffett often returns to McDonald's. To unwind after a long day, he enjoys playing bridge, which he considers the best exercise for the brain, or playing his ukulele. He goes to bed by 10:45 p.m. and sleeps for about 8 hours. Buffett also keeps some days on his calendar completely free of appointments, allowing himself uninterrupted time to work and enjoy more free time.